What's going on, everybody? It is that time again. The Sooners Illustrated Podcast, episode 221.
21.
On this Monday, October 27th, 2025. Josh Callaway, James D. Jackson, Tom Green with you on a post-game reaction Monday. Oklahoma, a tough gut punch loss to Ole Miss on Saturday in Norman. We were all there. We will recap it all, the good, the bad, the encouraging, the discouraging, and of course, as always, we'll spin it forward. What's realistic going into the month of November? Big road trip this weekend. We'll look ahead. Where are we kind of at with this team going into the final month? We'll obviously discuss that as well on the back end, as we typically do on a post-game reaction Monday. A reminder as we get started, as always, you can subscribe to Sooners Illustrated at oklahoma.247sports.com. Use the promo code SoonersPod60, all one word if you're listening on podcast. Get you 60% off a VIP membership for a year to Sooners Illustrated and the entire 24/7 Sports Network. So make sure to jump in with us. Basketball season about to get started. Both the hoops teams looking like they might be something. We'll talk about that more in the coming weeks, of course, but got the end of football, signing day, portal. There's a lot going on. So jump in and be with us over at Sooners Illustrated. All right, guys, let's do it. Oklahoma lost to Ole Miss on Saturday. 34-26 was the final. I'll just open it up. I mean, just a tough one. A tough one. It feels like a game that we've seen a lot the last 4 years where the opportunities were there. It was not all bad. There were some legitimately good things from this game. They certainly were in this game. They had a lead going to the fourth quarter. But at the end of the day, too many dumb mistakes, too many just shoot yourself in the foot moments, and another tough loss for Oklahoma. Yeah, a tough one here. A tough one. I mean, it was a good college football game. Ole Miss is a good team, back and forth, but the opportunities were there, and that's where this is a tough one to stomach for Oklahoma as you drop a home game here that felt like it was there to be had, certainly going into the fourth quarter.
Absolutely. I mean, this was a game that was very winnable for Oklahoma. And if you look at, I think, the net success rate, it was also very close margin there between the two teams. But it just feels like sometimes this team just can't get out of its own way. Sometimes it feels like one step forward, two steps back. And that was certainly the case in this one. Oklahoma had a bunch of mistakes that I think added up to like 18 points, like for Ole Miss. Like it almost directly led to those points. And certainly maybe the biggest one was that sequence in the second quarter where R. Mason Thomas jumps offside, so that negates a 14-yard sack. They still get the third down stop. Ole Miss punts, but the field position isn't as good. And then you have a holding penalty on the punt return, a illegal formation coming out of the change of possession TV timeout, and you start at the 2-yard line and you get stopped for a safety. And that's, game's tied 10-10 at that point. Ole Miss gets 2 points and the ball back. They get a big kickoff return and another field goal. And, that kind of tilts the game right there in what would have been a very close game going into halftime probably. But yeah, man, just too many mistakes for Oklahoma, not enough attention to detail in some parts. And, a lot of it is on John Mateer, certainly not sharp at all in the second half of this one, and just left so many plays on the field that, I'm sure when he went back and watched it on Sunday, he was just kicking himself for missing a lot of those throws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think outside of Texas, this is, John Mateer's worst performance at Oklahoma. I think that was what it was. There were guys open. The scheme was there. There were guys open that he just didn't hit, didn't try to hit. It just wasn't working for him there. Like he mentioned after the game, his eyes deceived him again, which is just him not making the right decisions pretty much. I think that was the case for, why he struggled in this game. I mean, I think even with everything that happened for Oklahoma, all the mishaps they had, if he just plays a decent game down the stretch, I think they still win this game. And that's kind of what's so frustrating about it, because he's a guy that you thought was, coming in from what he did at Washington State, all the accolades that he had, you were thinking it was going to be, a Heisman contender type of player, and he was going to be, the engine of the offense. And it just didn't happen in this game. Now, he's done good. I'm not going to just bag on him, but he's done good, start of the season and things like that. But it's just the last couple of games, it hasn't been there. It's just something's different overall. Defensively, I think Oklahoma did enough to win this game. They gave up some points. Obviously, it was against, different field positions. There were a ton of field goals that they were able to, hold one of the best offense in the country to. So there was just some things like, man, you're thinking like, Oklahoma should have won this game. They should have had a really good win on the resume. They should be feeling really good about themselves and actually be in SEC title contention. And I don't think they're in that anymore. I think there's still time to get into the CFP, but SEC title I don't think is going to happen at this point in time because of just leaving that game just not getting much to do there.
Sure. I watched the game back this morning, as I always do on Mondays before we do this show, and kind of similar to the Texas game 2 weeks ago, I did feel a little better watching it back. It's tough because there was 3 key moments in the game that were just all self-inflicted for Oklahoma that were just killers. Tom talked about one, the safety, that whole sequence, not even just the safety, but going back, like Yark illustrated it perfectly, the penalty on R. Mason, the penalty on the punt, and then the penalty within the 5 to back them up to the 2, and then they get safetied on a kind of a questionable play, design call, whatever. Whoever's fault it was dumb. All right,
I think John Mateer said, I think he checked into that one and just
so whoever's fault it is, bad. That was huge. The 4th and 2 later in the quarter when they're down 15-10, I didn't mind going for it. The play call design, awful. They didn't have any of their top receivers on the field for that, or Jaren Kanak. It was Zion Kearney and Carry-On and Carson Kent, and it was just, I don't know what they were even trying to do on the play. It was awful. It was bad all around, terrible play in a key spot. It got blown up. And then the obvious Lusitania fumble on the punt. The defense gives up the touchdown. They're down, but they pin them deep. They get a 3-and-out. They're going to have field position around midfield, down 5, plenty of time, like 8-7 minutes, somewhere in there. And he fumbles it, and that was kind of the game right there. I know they had more chances later, but that was really that was a key just gut punch of a spot. And those are all self-inflicted. All those are just Oklahoma, not, like Tom said, not being able to get out of their own way. So, it's a kind of an old coach cliche all the time of it's never as good as it feels or as bad as it feels. I find that kind of to be true when I go back and watch these games, especially the last 3 weeks. Like I felt better about this game and the Texas game. South Carolina, even kind of going back and watching, it wasn't as good, really, honestly, as it felt like there were still some pretty clear problems. But, so I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse. Like it really is kind of like Oklahoma's right there with a really good Ole Miss team. Like it's there to be had. It's there to be won. They're not far off of winning games like this, but they also, it's kind of the same things that have burned them all 4 years of this. So, on one hand, it's like they are legitimately close to getting over that hump, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of the same problems, though. Like, are they really that close when it's the same things burning them, the last 4 years? So, I don't know. It's a weird spot, and we'll talk about where we kind of feel about the team is going into November, obviously later on, but the penalties were killer too. I mean, so many just brutal penalties in this game at inopportune times, really all day. And you think of the very first drive, they had 2nd and 4 in the red zone, hold, just derailed that drive, had to kick a field goal. Like little moments in the game like that all day long. The penalties were bad, were really bad.
I wrote about it this morning, but Oklahoma and SEC play, they're getting flagged. They're 13th in penalties per game in SEC play, 16th in penalty yards per game in SEC play. So they survived it against Auburn. They survived it against South Carolina, where they had those penalties racked up, and it finally caught up to them in this one. Like you said, just too many mistakes in critical spots. Again, going back to that sequence beginning with R. Mason Thomas offside and the back-to-back penalties on the punt or on and after the punt return there, the questionable roughing the passer on Jaden Jackson that was on a 3rd and 10 and extended the drive that ended in another field goal for Ole Miss. It's just too many of those mistakes. Like John Mateer said after the game, it's like the margins are too thin for Oklahoma to not capitalize on these spots or make mistakes when they really can't afford them.
And that's the thing too. Like it's like Oklahoma has the talent on both sides of the ball to win a lot of high caliber games, and to have these mistakes derail that, I think is the most frustrating part, because I think a lot of people saw that against Ole Miss this week. You have the guys to do it. You're just not taking advantage of the situations. Like I spoke about it in the post game pod. Like to have Ole Miss go for it on your end of the field, and you get them, you stop them on a fumble, you stop them, and you only come away with 3 points.
I mean, go backwards
10 yards.
Go backwards on that.
Yeah.
Like it's just ugly, man. It's ugly, and I think that's the most frustrating part because it's clear that Oklahoma has the talent. They have the guys that are able to do it, but they're making these bonehead decisions and these penalties that's just not helping them and making it harder. And it's just rough to watch overall, I think.
No doubt. Let's talk about John Mateer specifically. You guys brought him up already. That's probably the biggest talking point coming out of this game. Didn't play well. 17 to 31, 223 yards, touchdown, no interceptions in the game, but just bad decisions. And he talked about that himself, missing guys down the field. I thought perfect encapsulation of that was the 4th down with about a minute and a half to go. He's got Isaiah Satania wide open in the flat for first down. He tries to fit it to Giovanni Gibson for some reason. Doesn't, that was kind of the end of the game really right there.
He had Xavier Robinson on that one too.
Yeah. I mean, just not seeing guys down the field, fleeing the pocket a little too early sometimes. And then just inaccurate, before that 4th down play on 3rd down, he has Jaren Kanak for a big play. And if he just puts it on him, it's a huge chunk play. And he just didn't hit him. Just a bad pass. John's not playing well. I don't know if it's the thumb or not, right? I mean, that's the question, right? Is it the thumb or not? Is it, he says no. He says it's not bothering him. It doesn't look to be actually affecting the passes in terms of like the spiral or the zip or basic things like that. But these last 3 games, he's not playing well. And people have said, oh, this is what he was all year, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, not really. I mean, yes and no. Like, he was inaccurate early in the year, and he had turnovers early in the year, but he also was making lots of plays. I mean, he was leading the Heisman race for a reason, right? He was playing well. He played well against Michigan and against Auburn. And then I've also seen people say, well, the competition's getting better. Again, yes and no. Ole Miss's defense, I wouldn't say is better than Michigan's or Auburn's. In fact, it's worse statistically in pretty much every way. Yeah, so, I don't really buy that either. He just hasn't played well last 3 weeks. I don't know if his confidence is shaken or if it's just he's in a funk. Or if it is the thumb, I don't know. But where are you guys at with John Mateer? And I think we're all trying to figure out what he is right now. Because I think early in the year, we're like, wow, they have a star quarterback. Mm-hmm. And now we're all kind of like, is he a problem? Like, it's kind of, I don't know. I don't know what to make of John Mateer right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'll credit John for not making any excuses. It's not his thumb. Says he's throwing it fine, nothing physical, but you do wonder, if it's still kind of hindering him from a, mental aspect. He's, just a little over a month removed from surgery now. That does take a lot out of someone, even if it's, kind of a, so to speak, minor procedure. But it was really weird because he started out the game so sharp. I think he completed 11 of his first 12 passes for like 150 yards. I think he had his best throw of the season early in the game on that 39-yarder to Isaiah Satania. Just the ball placement, the touch, obviously a great catch by Satania there to finish it. But in the second half, he just was, out of rhythm, missed reads, misfires, mistakes. Obviously didn't commit any turnovers, but he just, had too many plays that he just left on the field there. And I guess he completed 6 of his final 20 passes, which – that's not going to cut it from QB1 at Oklahoma. I mean, he knows he needs to be better, and it's one thing to say that he needs to be better, but he needs to go out and show it. And look, he was the number one or number 2 transfer quarterback in the portal for a reason. Sure. Had a big season at Washington State, but it wasn't perfect at Washington State last year either. Like, there were areas that he struggled with. And he had some up and down play. Pushing the ball downfield has not always been his strength. They tried to push it downfield a lot more in this one. I think he had 7 or 8 attempts, like 20 yards and deeper. Only completed 1 or 2 of those, I think. And obviously one of those was to Isaiah Satania. But I mean, I don't know. It's just really weird right now. He's just not playing up to what he should be doing. And, we've heard Brent Venables talk about it. We've heard Ben Arbuckle talk about it, but like making the layups that are there. And I don't think I've seen someone miss so many layups as John Mateer did in the second half of that game the other day.
Yeah, he was just a below average quarterback in that game. I mean, that's pretty much what it came down to. And I think we're all on the right path here, thinking that the surgery had something to do with, I think, his overall confidence in John Mateer and is just throwing the football. Because I don't know how you can go from that big of a swing from being a Heisman caliber player, which everybody said that. Everybody was saying it at the time. And a lot of people have been doing this for a long time. They saw the talent. They saw what he was doing. He was a Heisman level player. And to swing now to where he was in that game, especially in that second half, it's just rough to see because, it looks like the hand made a difference overall. I mean, like just having that surgery made a difference in his confidence. He was, credited as a gunslinger, a guy that's going to put the ball in place, but maybe sometimes he's going to give it away. He's not even doing that now. Like he's not even doing that, especially in that second half. Like it was rough to see. Like there's so many guys open down the field, which if you make the right throw, they're scoring touchdowns. I mean, that's the situation that he's in. And it's rough. It's rough, man. And you can bag him as hard as you can because of what he's expected to be. I mean, this is kind of like where he should be at. It's Oklahoma. You're the quarterback here. You're expected to make big plays, and you have to do that. We saw him do it a little bit in the first half, which was great. So you have to keep that level of play up. It was tough, man. It was tough overall for John Mateer. I think he's going to learn a lot from this game. He's going to see where those opportunities were. He's going to trust the scheme more and trust himself more. And I think he can come away with making better throws and making better decisions because Oklahoma's going to need it with the tough slate they got ahead.
I also think that part of it is he's just not being as effective with his legs as he was in that first month of the season.
You're on my mind.
He had that one good run to get, I guess, down near the red zone, if not in the red zone at one point, down the right sideline. But other than that, he just was not efficient running the ball, or even with his footwork in general. It looked like he, was rushed at times in the pocket, even when the pressure wasn't necessarily there. I think he had the most time to throw in the pocket that he's had all season. And just, I don't know, something seemed off. And it was really weird. Ole Miss is a solid defense, but again, they've played tougher defenses. I think Auburn certainly is probably the best defense that they've faced. Well, Texas and Auburn, two very capable defenses. But yeah, I mean, it's just weird. It was interesting that, when asked after the game about his performance, Mateer was like, he's still not good enough lately, but also he's like, the competition is getting tougher. Like he's acknowledging that, like he is having a little bit of a hard time getting over the hump against these stiffer defenses. And it's not going to get much easier because Tennessee's defense is really good. Alabama's defense is really good. Missouri's defense is good. LSU obviously kind of got clobbered by Texas A&M, and who knows what they're going to look like at the end of the season after a coaching change. Yeah. But, I mean, it's not going to get easier over this final month of the season for John Mateer.
You read my mind. The run game, I mean, he's not effective at all with the legs anymore, especially the design stuff. The design stuff doesn't work at all. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just teams have gotten wise to it. They've figured it out or what, because you guys, I mean, there's a huge talking point coming out of Michigan was, can you really afford to run him this much because it was so good in the Michigan game? That was a huge reason why they won that game was John Mateer in the run game. And that's just not, 13 carries for 17 yards in this game. I mean, good Lord. I mean, he got sacked 3 times. That always affects the rushing yards with quarterbacks. But again, he still only gained 31 in this game. So,
and he had a long
like Tom said, he had the one good scramble. That was about it. And that was a scramble. That was not a design. He just made something happen. And he just looks slow. And I don't know why that is. I really don't have the answer for that. So I don't know. We're going to see what happens the rest of the way. I mean, again, I'll kind of reiterate, like, OU fans are kind of moving off of him now. It's like, this is your guy. Like, this is who it's going to be the rest of the way. Obviously, like, there's not any chance of a change there. And he's going to be the guy next year too. Like, so this whole, like, moving off him in the, like, that's not going to, I'd be stunned if that happened. Like, John Mateer is going to be your guy. So you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to figure it out. So
yeah, I think it's just a confidence thing. I mean, if you're playing slower, it's just like you have doubts in what you can do. And I think that's where he's at right now. I mean, that's the good thing, though, because you can come back from that. Obviously, he has the talent. He can come back he can just make better decisions and play faster and get more confidence in himself. There's a possibility of doing that. So,
yeah.
Can you do it over this tough stretch?
On the bright side, one positive thing that happened was Xavier Robinson broke out of nowhere. 109 yards, 2 TDs. He basically changed the game himself in the third quarter of this game. He rips a 65-yarder. They had 12 rushing yards before that play where he goes
13 attempts.
It was unreal. He turned it around. They then fed him again on the next drive. and he punched it in. So he had 2 touchdowns, went over 109 yards on just 9 carries. He only got a couple more touches after that second touchdown. A big bright spot here, right? I mean, obviously, Torrey Blaylock was not overly effective in this game. He only had 6 carries. But Xavier Robinson got it going, and it looks pretty clearly like this is probably your guy, moving forward, which is, we did this last year too. It was later in the year, but same kind of thing where it's like, wow, where's he been all year? We had it happen again on Saturday, but again, he only got 9 carries. They kind of got away from him in this game, but definitely a bright spot here with Xavier Robinson. That was a really fun quarter with what he did in this game. And, they had all momentum, felt like they were going to just ride it from there. But that's the one bright spot, if there is one. Xavier Robinson playing really well. And, it feels like you got to feed this dude in Knoxville this week. I saw in the instant reaction, I stand by it. 20 carries in Knoxville for this. I mean, if it's just not working, sure. But you got to feed this dude and let him get into some sort of a rhythm, because when he's rolling, it's fun. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like we did this a week ago with Torrey Blaylock. It's like after that game against South Carolina, it's like, okay, he's the guy. It's like, well, okay, well, now Xavier Robinson's the guy. And we've heard that Ben Arbuckle likes to ride the hot hand, but I think it's clear that these are your 2 best running backs. Like you said, we saw it last season late in the year with Xavier Robinson. Certainly what he did in that Alabama game, his 2 best performances of his career now against, a ranked Alabama team at home and a top 10 Ole Miss team at home. So that there's something to be said about that. But yeah, like you mentioned, 4 carries for close to 90 yards in that third quarter, 2 touchdowns, single-handedly basically got Oklahoma not just back in the game, but in front at that point. But the rest of the game, 5 carries. You had 1 carry for a 3-yard loss in the first half. Certainly, the run game was not working in the first half. They didn't try to make it work too much. I think it was 9 carries in the first half at that point. Or 9 rushing attempts in the first half for them. And then the fourth quarter, he only had 4 more touches and he got 22 yards on those. They just went away from him. And I get part of it is just like the way the game kind of played out after that Satania fumble on the punt return. It's like at that point, like you kind of need to pass the ball and move the chains as quick as you can to get downfield. But, it just felt like the last 10, 11 minutes of that game, they just went away from him. And it was a little head scratching at some points, but it's like, dude, even when you take away the 3 sacks that Mateer took, he had more rushing attempts than Xavier Robinson. Like you need your best running back needs more than 9 carries. Like the only other game this season where Oklahoma's leading rusher had fewer than 10 carries was the season opener against Illinois State, where you're just kind of rotating guys and feeling things out in that first week. Like you need to get your best players the ball, especially when they're rolling the way he was in that third quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he was right with what they needed. Did you guys see it? I think Torrey Blaylock hurt his shoulder on the.
It was in the first quarter, he got tackled weird and was shaking his arm, and then they pulled him out for a play, and then he came back in, but he was still kind of shaking. I don't know what happened
on the 2-point.
Yeah.
Yes, it's something. It looks like that's the shoulder he had hurt earlier in the season too. Seemed like that was bothering him. But Xavier Robinson was exactly what they needed. I mean, a guy making those type of plays to pretty much turn the game around, as you said, Josh, just on his own. It was a big momentum swing, and I could tell from the press box, it was loud. At the stadium, that was awesome. The loudest I've heard it.
It was awesome
since Alabama. It was loud, man. So everybody was in it. They were feeling it. The defense started making plays after that, and it's just you had to keep riding Xavier Robinson. And I think Brent Venables and Ben Arbuckle have both acknowledged that they should have kept giving him the ball down the stretch, even though with the certain situations, as Tom said, they wanted to give. They should have given him the ball more. He was feeling it. So just 9 carries after that is shocking. It's shocking. I didn't even know it until you had mentioned it, Josh. He only had 9 when you look at the stat sheet. That's insane to me.
He only got I want 2 or maybe 3 after the second touchdown. And I know like Tom said, game situation, but still 4. I thought that, even when they were down 8 the first time after the muff, there still was 4 or 5 minutes left. You still could run the ball. You had time. You had all your timeouts too. And just, I don't know. But it is one bright spot was him, and that third quarter sequence was amazing. And we'll talk about that more in a minute when we get to the defense, what kind of happened after that. So let me just ask you guys this. Good old-fashioned fill in the blank. Biggest issue with the offense is what? Because I think that's what we're all trying to figure out, right? I mean, the offense, we talked about the instant reaction. It winds up okay at the end with the points and the yardage. Like it doesn't look that bad. But if you watch the game, it was ugly a lot of the day. And they have no ability to really sustain a drive right now. Obviously, the two of their touchdowns came on a 76-yarder to Satania and the 65-yard run from Robinson. The other touchdown came on, it was a short field. It was good field position. There was a face mask mixed in there. It wasn't like a long, methodical drive, is what I'm.
I think it was like a 60-yard drive, but
but it wasn't like how many plays. I should have looked at the plays. It wasn't like
the best drive of the day.
Chomp down the field. It was the best drive of the day.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts on is it Mateer's play? Is it Ben Arbuckle? Like, what's holding this offense back from being good? Because I don't think we're all in agreement. I think that it's not a disaster. It's not last year, obviously, but it's not where it needs to be either. It's kind of just average right now. And if it was a little better, you would feel like this team could win every game they play, and they still pretty much could win every game they play. But it's just what's the biggest problem, if there is one that you can point to?
It's John Mateer's inefficient play right now. We saw just like how much better everything looks when he's playing well in that first month of the season. But like we've talked about it before, like good quarterback play elevates an average offense.
Mm-hmm.
And right now they're not getting good enough quarterback play to elevate what is essentially a very average offense at this point. It's good that the last couple of weeks they've found some stuff in the run game. You'd like it to be more consistent. Again, they've still had to tinker with the offensive line. Missed Derek Simmons in this one. Ryan Foje got his first career start. Saw a lot of EPL in at left guard over Hito Zaida for most of that game. But I think at the end of the day, like if John Mateer, makes half those throws that he overthrew or just misfired, like you look at this game, Oklahoma's wide receivers did not have any drops. That means all of John Mateer's incompletions were either just off target or throwaways or, just not able to make the play that he needs to make. So I think at the end of the day, if he makes 5 or 6 more of those throws that, he wishes he could have back, we're having a different conversation about Oklahoma today. I know a lot of people are, down on Ben Arbuckle after that game, but you go back and watch the game. I don't think he called a terrible game. Like it was far from perfect. And there
was bad, but I agree. Yeah.
There were questionable decisions in some parts. Like you mentioned, like that 4th down play near midfield was mind-boggling. Not going back to Xavier Robinson after that third quarter, the way that he was just rolling, questionable. But I don't think it was a terribly called game, because if John Mateer makes some of those plays that were there to be made, the offense is in a much better spot. So I think at the end of the day, like if John Mateer can play, even close to how he did in the first part of the season, then Oklahoma is going to be in a better spot going into this final month of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Tom said it. It's John Mateer's play as of right now. Obviously, in the 2 losses is where he had his worst games. Turning the ball over against Texas, and in this game we're just missed guys. I think that's the situation. Even when Oklahoma couldn't run the football early on in the season, they were still able to come away with wins because they could ride on the defense and just the talent of John Mateer and what he could do offensively by himself. And he's not doing that right now. So I think that's the big shift in what's going on with the offense overall. So I think that's pretty much what it is at this point.
Yeah, I probably mostly agree. I don't think Ben Arbuckle's perfect, but he's good. And, he's young. He's really young. And we talked about in the offseason, some patience with this guy. He hasn't been around that long. And the comparison to 2015 all the time, it took Lincoln Riley really until it was about November when they really started to rev it up. It wasn't like he walked in the door and they were just scoring 60 every week. It takes some time when you're a young OC like that. So I'm kind of agree with both you guys, when what Tom was saying. Like I'm not off Ben Arbuckle. I think he's making some mistakes, and there's just so much pressure to win right now that the scrutiny is high. John Mateer's got to play better. I will also add, I don't think it's the biggest problem. I agree it's probably Mateer needs to play better. They're devoid of true game changers at wide receiver and tight end. Like next level guys, NFL guys. They don't have that right now. Like I think Satania's playing really well. But he's kind of it. Like, Deion Burks is not having the season we thought he would. And I think Deion Brooks is an NFL level player, but he's not. It just, when we were at the beginning of the season, what he did against Michigan, we all thought, man, this guy's gonna be like an all SEC type of guy. He's not having that level of impact. Canick's not either. With what he did earlier in the year, not. And maybe that's not on their fault. Maybe that's Mateer or the scheme, but it's just not happening, right? Javonte Gibson was a non-factor in this game, which was very disappointing. Keontae Lewis is hurt. We've been spoiled at Oklahoma with the guys that have come through here just even recently, your CeeDee Lambs, your Marquise Browns, Marvin Mims, like the list kind of goes on, and they just don't have that right now. Yeah. And I think that's hurting them a bit. If they had a true game changer at receiver or especially tight end, that would be nice. And I think they have a nice group of players, but just not that next level talent there right now.
Yeah. And they're not rotating like at all right
at
now.
All.
Especially with Keontae Lewis out, there's like no rotation. And I know Ben Arbuckle has in his short time as a play caller has kept a very tight rotation at wide receiver, but they're like those three guys barely came off the field. Against Ole Miss. I think, like you said, Ivan Carrion had a couple of snaps, including that fourth down. Zion Kearney was in there. Elijah Thomas, I think, was only in on the Hail Mary at the end of the game. I think it was actually targeted to him late on that last play. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're just not rotating those guys out at all. And when you don't have a game breaker, like you said, you kind of wonder why you aren't trying to get some fresher bodies in there to just distribute it a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not entirely. I mean, Isaiah Sategna looks pretty good to me. I mean, I know you acknowledge that, but I mean, I don't
know if he's number one on a really good receiving core. I guess.
I mean, credit to him. He's having a career year. He's got career high in receiving yards and receptions already in 8 games. And look, we saw he has some of that game changing speed, on that 76 yard touchdown catch. That was all him on the afterburners. But yeah, the lack of a deep threat, it feels like, is what's kind of holding the passing game back. Is they just have not been pushing the ball downfield. And again, that's not the strength of John Mateer's game, but you need to have some semblance of that because it does take some pressure off the run game. It opens up some things in the short and intermediate game too. If you can have the threat to push the ball downfield, like we saw, with Ole Miss, right after that Isaiah Sategna turnover, what do? They take a deep shot. Trinidad Chambliss gets him down in field goal range. You need to have the threat to be able to do that.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Isaiah Sategna is not the problem at all.
No.
He's the one guy doing things. It just, I don't know. I would like to see something. I wish we would see more Kearney and carry on.
Yeah,
Elijah Thomas. I mean, Elijah Thomas was God during fall camp, and he can't get on the field. And then Kearney and carry on were awesome in the bowl game, and we thought year 2, they can kind of at least contribute. And like Tom said, they don't even get on the field at all.
Yeah, I'd like to see. I mean, at least to see Gibson over the middle of the field a little bit more. It seems like he's only getting those quick stop routes right there on where the sticks are. That seems like the only.
Give the guy some jump balls,
some
50 balls.
See what he can do going down the field as we've been talking about. Yeah. He's got the height. I mean, you want to see what kind of playmaker he can be, overall. So I think that's one of the things that we could see more of if you want to have that type of situation. I think Burks isn't getting the ball as much as he could. I think that is affecting his stock overall. I think he has the opportunity to make good plays like he did. He caught one on the sideline in that last game and had I think 2 more over the middle of the field. But you want to see some post routes, some post routes where you're taking shots down the field, or maybe a Gibson or something like that, to see what he can do for sure. Because you mentioned with Chambliss's throw, that long throw he had after the punt, it was over the middle of the field of one of their taller guys, and they just made a good play. You want to see stuff like that from Oklahoma as well.
For sure. So we'll see. Offensive line, Ryan Foje got the start at tackle with Derek Simmons out. There's some growing pains there with him and Fasusi both, but the upside is obvious.
I think he played pretty good.
I mean, I'd be okay with rolling with that. I mean, we'll see with Simmons if he can come back or what, but I don't mind. I mean, anytime those are the future of the position in theory, right? So I mean, I can live with that. If you want to roll there and kind of go from there. The offensive line, I mean, EPL got in there for a little while. He was really good on the Xavier Robinson, the second touchdown. He was blowing dudes up. So I'm curious to see if that starting five gets shaken up at all with EPL or not. They seem to be kind of soft launching him a little bit each week. We'll see. I don't know what the snap count to be. You know, Tom, off the top of your head,
like 45-25 EPL, or 42-25 maybe. But EPL played the majority. He played like twice as many snaps as Hito Zaida did.
Really, I didn't realize it was quite that drastic. So yeah, I mean, I wonder if they'll make a change to the lineup.
I asked for Betchy Nwebu, who's the right guard. I asked him about just Ryan Foje and how long he's been there and how he performed. He said he's only been there 2 days, like during practice, and like did well. I mean, he played there in high school, so it's not like he's just new to this.
Sure.
But just playing with that offensive line, he was only there 2 days, and I think he had a fairly decent game out there.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for that. Like you said, he played right tackle more in high school, but I mean, he got on campus and he got bigger to play guard.
A guard, yeah.
It's a different body type to go from guard to tackle. I know a lot of guys are able to play kind of both those spots. We've seen Jacob Sexton do it.
Sure.
I think Betchy Nwebu has done it at some point in his career. I think he played some outside too. So it's not uncommon, but like for a guy to have 2 days of practice and step in and start at right tackle and against an SEC opponent, says something about Ryan Foje's ability.
Yeah,
no doubt. So obviously a lot of conversation on the offense for obvious reasons. And just coming where from last year and the conversation about material and everything. The defense, though, not at lack of fault for this game by any means. I just saw Lane Kiffin and Trinidad Chambliss got them. They were just better than OU was in this game. I do give the defense credit. I thought the way this game started, they got hit in the face the first couple of drives. They kind of settled in. They kind of found their footing a little bit, played a lot better in the middle of the game. But going back to that third quarter, all momentum. The stadium is on fire. It was as loud as I had heard it in a while, frankly. It was really loud. 26-25. OU has the lead. And Ole Miss goes 11 plays down the field, touchdown, takes the lead. Obviously never gives it back. Trinidad Chambliss just killed him with his legs. Couldn't go up the field on 3rd and long, which we saw a lot down in Dallas 2 weeks ago. Guys, this was obviously the defense's biggest test so far, and they failed it, right? I mean, they failed it. They did some good things in this game. Like I said, they found their footing in the middle of this game, but to start the game and then in the money possessions late, in particular that touchdown drive where Ole Miss took the lead, Lane Kiffin and Trinidad Chambliss were just got them. We're just better. Yeah. Where are you guys at with this defense? Is it maybe not as good as we thought? Is that too much? I mean, where are we at defensively after this game?
I still think this is one of the best defenses in college football, but that was not their best game by any means. And a lot of that is credit to Lane Kiffin. He outmaneuvered Brent Venables in that chess match. We saw a lot where, Ole Miss would huddle up until there was like 15 seconds left on the clock. Mm-hmm. They would just have like their center go and then break the huddle late, give Brent Venables as little time as possible to kind of dissect the formation and get his guys in position and just kind of capitalize on that. Like we talked about it last week with Lane Kiffin's comments, like Oklahoma was like really good at, studying film and offensive signs and stuff like that. Well, how do you prevent that? You don't give, one of the best defensive play callers in the country time to figure out what your formation is. Like you figure it out in the huddle, get to the line quick with very little time and snap the ball. So credit to Lane Kiffin for that. But Trinidad Chambliss, like he's been really good for them this year. Like he made some great plays, both with his legs and, throwing the ball, certainly. You mentioned that, 75-yard touchdown drive by Ole Miss to kind of go back in front, I think it was. But really two drives just stand out in the second half. It's like that first field goal drive by Ole Miss went 14 plays and 63 yards and took like 5+ minutes off the clock. Mm-hmm. But, just Oklahoma couldn't get off the field in some spots. They've been so good on third downs this season, and they just weren't in this one. Ole Miss was 9 of 21 on third down conversions, had another one that was converted by the Jaden Jackson roughing the passer. And then obviously Ole Miss.
Questionable call.
Yeah, went over that before, but definitely a questionable call. But, Lane Kiffin trusts his guys on third down, and if they don't get it on third down, he's going to go for it on fourth a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And we saw that in this one too. So, I think a lot of it is just that, like, Lane Kiffin is one of the best offensive play callers in the country. and for good reason. And I don't think it should be a huge knock on this defense, but this was certainly not their best day.
And I think the biggest thing too on that side of the football was Ole Miss's offensive line is just a lot better than I thought they were too. Like that, Oklahoma wasn't getting the pass rush and the pressure that they typically get, and that's like the spearhead of this defense. I know they got a lot of tackles for loss, but just getting to him one time as a sack, they just weren't getting to him overall, and he was able to get those longer throws down the field because he had more time. And like they did a really good job of negating what Oklahoma could do as a pass rush overall, and I think that was one of the biggest things they were looking forward to going into it, outside of, not showing their play too early to Brent Venables be able to just decipher and things like that. They did a very good job pass blocking, I think, overall. And, I think that made a big difference. I think it made a big difference. Yeah,
it's crazy when you have 14 tackles for loss, but just one sack.
Yeah.
And I think it was the season low 12 total pressures that Oklahoma had. Like Ole Miss did a good job of negating that pass rush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought Trinidad Chambliss was just really good a lot of the game. Frankly, they got helped out by the fact that Lane Kiffin kept taking him out for ungodly unknown reasons. He put Austin Simmons in a couple of times, and in particular that second and goal and third and goal, and he just missed open dude on the first one. And it's like that was a gift because Trinidad Chambliss was playing great. I know his completion percentage ends up not being great. What do you go 24 or 44? But he had 315, and he was smart with the football. He threw it away, when a few times, and he had some dimes, just some straight up dimes where I thought the defense was okay, but he just, good throw beats good defense sort of a thing. And that very first drive, Peyton Bowen's right there, and that was just a dot, on the far side. It was just, he was good. He was really good. And yeah, like you guys said it, just the one sack. Marvin Jones got him in the second quarter, and that was it. They ended up getting 14 TFLs in this game, but just the one sack. And again, no turnovers. I mean, it's just, I talk about it on the instant reaction. Like the turnover thing is a problem. It is, because when you're winning, it's all laughy, jokey, like crazy. They can't get a turnover with how good they are. But now it's like, man, oh, how cool would a turnover be? And I know like the offense had a short field on the fourth down and didn't take advantage of it. So there's nothing says that they would, right? But still, just to get a quick change stop, flip some momentum, give your offense a short field would be huge in these close games. And it's just not happening at all. I mean, they don't have any turnovers outside of Kent State. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess South Carolina, the punt, but whatever,
Yeah, what is interesting? Well, Jacoby Johnson also had a late interception, that one too.
Whatever, that one didn't matter either. It's like good one actually matters.
No, but what is interesting about this defensive performance, like you said, Trinidad Chambliss 300 plus passing yards was very good. But you look at Oklahoma starting cornerbacks in this game, and they weren't the problem at all.
Exactly.
Cortland
Guillory was awesome. I thought.
I think he gave up like 2 catches on 8 targets for like 6 or 7 yards. Eli Bowen gave up like 1 catch on like 4 targets for like 8 yards or something like that. Those 2 guys were great. Cortland Guillory, 3 pass breakups, I think it was.
Yeah. Right now 3.
Him and Eli Bowen had like two of the 4 highest like coverage grades in the country this week. So the cornerbacks were doing their job. It was a little bit more the linebackers and the safeties struggling at times in pass coverage there. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a weird game for the defense. Like they obviously need to be better in those money downs, those third downs, get off the field. But it was just an interesting chess match, in my opinion, between Lane Kiffin and Brent Venables. And I think, Lane had him in checkmate there.
Oh,
yeah, 9 of 21 on third downs, but they ended up Ole Miss. It felt there were some key ones in there, though. Yeah, I think getting Gentry Williams to be back would be nice to kind of form that quartet with Jacoby Johnson, Bowen, and then I thought Cortland Guillory was really good. Davon Jordan, it feels like teams kind of try to pick on him a little bit right now, doing some nice things, but he's kind of the weak spot of that group right now. Which you mitigate that obviously when Gentry's back, when he's out there. So. I mean, there were still some good things. Like I agree totally on Cortland Guillory. Kip Lewis led him in tackles again. He was kind of everywhere in this game.
Madman.
But yeah, I don't know. They're just not able to get enough pressure. I don't know what to say defensively. They got beat.
I asked Venables about this. I'm not sure how much it affects the defense when Kobe McKenzie goes out. Like
that was huge. That's huge.
That's a big thing because he's a guy that kind of gets everybody settled in and things like that. It's not just
that was early in the game too.
Yeah, so like I think that affected everything as well on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, no doubt. That was early in the game too when Kobe went out. So we'll see how the defense responds, kind of moving forward. But yeah, I don't know. Lane Kiffin and Trinidad Chambliss kind of got the better of them. It felt like in this one. So we look ahead as we always do. We go into the month of November this week. There's 4 games left. Oklahoma's 6-2. They go out to Tennessee this week. Tennessee's obviously another top 15 team. Going to be in Neyland. They're hyping this game up a lot from like a crowd perspective. It's a night game. They're wearing the all black uniforms. Like it's going to be, I think it's going to be insane from an atmosphere perspective. Then you got to go to Tuscaloosa after a bye, and you close with Missouri and LSU. Both those teams look pretty beatable right now. I mean, we'll see what happens when we actually get there. Like Tom referenced, LSU fired Brian Kelly yesterday, which is crazy.
And Joe Sloan.
And Joe Sloan, their OC. And then Missouri, Bo Pribula. They think he might be able to come back for the end of the year, which is crazy if you saw the injury. But either way, you feel like you should be able to win those home games. Not guaranteeing anything, but you should. You'll be favored in both those games. Just realistic expectations going forward. I mean, playoff talk feels a little silly. Technically, they are still alive. I mean, if they were to win out, they're in. I mean, that's why people are talking about nationally, like elimination game. Get out of here with that. That was not an elimination game. If Oklahoma wins out, they are in. All day they're in. At 10-2, no way they wouldn't be. So that was really silly. But, obviously hard to expect them to win all 4 of these things. Right. Expectations for you guys, though, we're just moving forward as we go into the final 4 games. I mean, what's realistic? Could you guys still think they could win 9? Could they win all 4? Like, is that possible? Like, I guess, how are we feeling about the team after this game and moving into, obviously, a really tough November coming up here, starting on Saturday?
I think, splitting November is very realistic. Especially like you said, those 2 home games to end the season. We'll see if Bo Pribula is back for Missouri at that point. Mm-hmm. But if he's out, they're on their 3rd quarterback because Sam Horn got hurt early in the season for them, so they're down to their 3rd string quarterback. And you'd like Brent Venables' chances as a defensive play caller at home against a pretty raw quarterback like that. And then again, we'll see what LSU looks like, but you fire your head coach, you fire offensive coordinator. Certainly they've been a disappointment this season. Still very talented team, but
sure.
You get them at home in kind of a bit of disarray. So like, we'll see what that looks like, at the end of the year. But man, these 2 road games are tough. Like Tennessee's a very good offense. They're a strong defense too. Alabama might be, I know that they kind of escaped South Carolina there. That's kind of what Kalen DeBoer's teams do. They're not always going to blow you out, but they are going to find a way to win those close games for the most part. 8-4, I think, is realistic. The perception won't be great if you drop these next 2 because you will have lost 4 of 5 at that point. Yeah. And it doesn't look good, but you could still finish strong. And I think before the season, we thought that 8 wins was a realistic spot, but with a chance to maybe get to 9. If they can split these 2 road games, like certainly you feel great about them and a chance to, get into that playoff discussion at 9-3. But I think right now, you kind of have to temper expectations a little bit and be like, probably an 8-win season is what you're looking at right now, especially if, John Mateer does not play, how he was playing at the start of the year.
Mm-hmm. And I know I've said for quite some time, I think 9-win gets him in. I don't know at this point.
I don't think so anymore.
Because of LSU, like they're not going to be as strong. Like that's not going to be such a great win, I think, because of the firing and everything like that with them and how Missouri is going to look at that time as well. So I think you really do have to win out to absolutely get yourself into the CFP. I think that's where it's at. It's going to be a very tough challenge, though. I mean, losing this Ole Miss game is changed a lot for what the season could be, I think, overall, because as you said, I think earlier, Josh, it was like if Oklahoma just wins their home games, they'll be in good position. So now they've lost that. So now you have to still a pair on the road. And I don't know. I've never been confident in them going on the road against Alabama and winning that game. But it may be like style makes fights or something like that, because it seems like any given night, a different team could come out and almost beat them. Like South Carolina just almost beat Alabama. So, like, is that the situation? But I mean, the realistic expectations, as you guys have said, is 8 wins. I think they can get to 9 if they play well, but I'm not sure that's enough to get them in the CFP at this point because of now the LSU change and how if Missouri is still going to be ranked at that time as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you. I definitely thought 9 would maybe get them there. I mean, it was never for sure, obviously.
Yeah.
No, but I definitely feel less confident in that now. I mean, you look at where the SEC is, you're not going to get more than 5. Most likely 4 teams is what you're going to get. And, A&M and Alabama, A&M's undefeated, obviously, right now. Alabama has 1 loss. Then you got Georgia, Ole Miss, and Vandy all only have 1 loss. So it's like you got to find a way to get above at least one of them, if not 2. To get in there, and that's going to be hard to do. That's not even including Texas and Missouri and Tennessee. You don't really worry about because in this scenario you would have had to have beat them. But so it feels unlikely. Maybe it does though. Maybe 9 still gets you there. 10, I think you definitely would. But it's just I'm with you. I mean, I do think they have a real shot to win this week. I'm probably not going to pick it to happen, not to get ahead of ourselves on Friday, but I think they could win this week. Like, I don't think that's crazy by any means. Alabama's going to be really tough. They're playing great. They're one of the hottest teams in the country right now. And then, like I said earlier, those 2 home games, you really need to win those. Like even removing any sort of playoff talk, like those are 2 games right now. LSU just fired their coach. Okay, Missouri is on their 3rd quarterback, and we'll see if Pribula can come back. But if Pribula's out, that is unforgivable levels of loss. If you were to lose to Missouri's 3rd string at home, you just can't do that. And then LSU kind of same thing. And they fire their coach. They're still a talented roster, but their offense stinks, So, I said 8-4 before the season. Feel pretty good about that right now. And I think at the end of the day, they're probably going to be in all these games. But that's kind of the thing is that Oklahoma has not proven to be good in close games the last 4 years. They just don't win them often enough to feel good about it. So we'll see. I don't think the season's over by any means. I still think this is a pretty good team. And, yeah, I guess we'll see. Starts this week. Big one this week. If you can win this week, you're at least feeling like you're back on the table for feeling good about winning 9, which would be a good season. I mean, anyone before the year would have said 9 would be a great season, So we'll see. Could be fun. Looking forward to going out there to Tennessee this week. Another big road game, obviously, for Oklahoma, and we'll go from there. Going to be an interesting week around here, to say the least. I think that's it. Any other final thoughts about this game? Anything we get off your chest? I think we covered everything.
Yep.
All right. We'll be back on Friday for the game preview. Colin, Ken, and I will be back for the podcast on Thursday. Hit some recruiting stuff. Oklahoma got another big commit this morning. Xavier Rogers flips over from Penn State. So we should break that down on Thursday along with everything else on the recruiting side of things. Colin's going to be with us in Tennessee, by the way, as well. So we'll get his thoughts about the game a little bit going into the weekend, of course. Player interviews tonight down in Norman. Maybe John Mateer, we'll see. But certainly hear from the team this evening. Brent Venables, Ben Arbuckle, press conference tomorrow. Also, OU Basketball Media Day tomorrow as well. So keep an eye out for coverage from Norman. Going to be a busy day. Their season starts next Monday. So we'll have to get into they had the exhibition win over Wisconsin. Good stuff.
No, the women have one Wednesday as well.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, cool. So next Monday we'll dabble in a little bit of hoops talk on the show next Monday because both teams will start their season that night in Norman. So getting to be that time of year. Busy times. So we'll be back later this week. Again, play interviews tonight, press conference tomorrow, game preview with the 3 of us on Friday, setting the table for OU and Tennessee. But that's it for now. For Tom Green, James D. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway signing off. We'll see you next time right back here, as always, on Sooners Illustrated.
See ya.